Hey Bears fans, the season may be over, but we're still publishing daily videos here on Chicago Bears Now, so get subscribed if you haven't already and turn on those notifications. I know we've gotten a bunch of new subs recently. I appreciate it. To help you out, turn on that notification bell. That way you always get notified when we post a video on the channel, like today's video, which is Chicago Bears Rumors. That's coming up right now. You're watching Chicago Bears Now. I'm your host, Harrison Graham. Day one of the offseason is here, and Chicago Bears rumors are buzzing because of it, so we'll go ahead and jump on in. Let's start with the quarterback. Is Mitchell Trubisky gone? I think it's probably leaning that way after what we saw in Week 17, but especially in the playoff game as well. In a game in which the Bears really didn't have that much to lose, the Bears played extremely conservative offensively and tried to kind of keep that game close with their defense because they didn't trust Mitchell Trubisky. I think that was pretty clear, and I warned you guys before Week 17 against the Packers that don't get too caught up on how Trubisky's played against lesser opponents here. What happens? He does not play that well against Green Bay in Week 17, didn't play that well against the Saints in the wild card round. Sure, the play calling was conservative. It wasn't great, but I think that's because this coaching staff did not trust Mitchell Trubisky in this game. And one drive in particular really stood out to me. 7-3 game, less than 2 minutes in the second quarter. It's not like there was 30 seconds left, though. 1:49 left, and I believe the Bears still had 2 timeouts. They get the ball back after the Saints punt. And this is how they approached it. Instead of playing aggressive, trying to take a lead or at least adding points before the half, 1st and 10, 5-yard rush, David Montgomery. Saints use their last timeout. 2nd and 5, 3-yard rush, David Montgomery. Bears use all 40 seconds on the play clock to run it under a minute. 3rd and 2, Ryan Nall, stuffed, no gain. Use all 40 seconds, take a timeout, punt, clock runs out, it's halftime. How many teams in the NFL in a playoff game down 7-3, down 4 points before the half with almost 2 minutes left and a couple of timeouts would have said, hey, we're just going to run the clock out to halftime? Not many, right? Like, if this team trusted their quarterback, they would not have done that. So I ask you this question. Will Mitch Trubisky be back next year? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I think the tea leaves were very obvious in this playoff game, but I'll let you get your votes in. Y for yes, N for no. I got to type my N for no. I don't think it's going to happen in 2021. Now, Mitch Trubisky would like to be back. He was asked about it, what he thinks his future holds, and he says, yeah, I can definitely see myself back here next year. I feel like we have unfinished business. I could see that. That seems like wishful thinking to me. Here's the problem. Matt Nagy doesn't trust Mitch Trubisky. I think it's obvious. I don't think he trusts Trubisky to make enough big plays to have an aggressive mindset in these big type of games. Sure, Trubisky can look good against Jacksonville. He'll let it rip against the Houston Texans, who have the worst defense, one of the worst defense in the NFL. But when it got to Week 17, when it got to the playoffs against high quality competition, the Bill Lazor and this offensive staff, who obviously is led by head coach Matt Nagy, called it conservative, played it close to the chest because they felt like Mitch Trubisky could not let it rip. Otherwise, he'd put the ball in harm's way, which he did on the opening drive, by the way. The Saints dropped an interception on 3rd down. They just don't trust Trubisky with this current coaching staff. So to me, you can't have Trubisky and the current staff. You have to pick one. And we've seen in 4 seasons now, about 3 seasons total games played, inconsistent play, right? He broke out in 2018. I thought he was going in the right direction. Then he regressed in 2019. Then he got benched this year. Did some okay things when he returned, but against the good teams, he just did not play that well. Look at what he did against the Saints. 90 yards was on the last drive in garbage time. Like, the game was already over, and he had a QBR of 13.1. His quarterback rating was like a 96. That's why QBR is a more valuable stat, because quarterback rating doesn't factor for situational football. A lot of his production and his only touchdown was on the last drive and the last play of the game. That's why the QBR is so low, because he did virtually nothing for 3.5 quarters. Like, it's not his fault Javon Wims dropped that touchdown pass, but that was also a trick play. That wasn't like elite quarterback play. It was a great throw, but at the end of the day, Mitchell Trubisky is not an elite level quarterback. Is he serviceable? Is he a stopgap guy? Sure. If you want to bring him back and draft a quarterback and let you groom a kid for a year, that's fine, but I don't think that's doing Trubisky any good. I don't think that's doing yourself any good. I don't think it's doing your fan base any favors. I think you got to turn the page on this quarterback and go in a different direction unless you want to try him under a different coach, which is why I'll ask you this question, because to me, you can't have both. You can't bring back the current regime with the current quarterback, so pick one. Type MT for Mitchell Trubisky, type MN for Matt Nagy. We'll make this the pinned comment on today's video, so if you get hit with the ad break, you guys can debate right there. All right, let's talk Allen Robinson. What does his future look like? Obviously, he is set to hit free agency. He spoke on Monday during exit interviews, obviously coming off a career year, and he was asked, what about the idea of getting franchise tagged? And he said, I plead the fifth, a.k.a. I'm not going to answer that one because I think you guys know what my answer is. He doesn't want to get tagged. It's simple. He's been consistent. Look at this quote here. Right now, everything is on the table. I personally feel like we had an opportunity to get something done over the past 365 days. So let me kind of rewind the clock and explain to what's happened in the last year or so. And by the way, my take on this is simple. Fire Ryan Pace into the sun because he has botched this. Here's the last year for Allen Robinson and the Bears. Robinson comes off a great year in 2019, enters this year, says all the right things, says, hey, I want to be a Chicago Bear long term. All things pointing in the right direction. Get closer and closer to the season. No deal. Early in the season, still wants a deal. Takes Bears-related stuff off his social media, and then the Bears, through media reports, were too far apart on contract negotiations. Ryan Pace has botched this in so many ways, despite Robinson's willingness to want to stay in Chicago, despite a dysfunctional offense, despite a team that has one winning season in 8 years. He wants to be here. I still think he wants to be here. I think if you offered him the right contract, he would sign it in a heartbeat. But Ryan Pace isn't motivated to get it done. And that's why we're going to spam it again. Spam F in the comments section to fire Ryan Pace. He's got to go. He screwed this up so poorly. Instead, he focused on, let's get Robert Quinn in here for $70 million. Let's extend Tariq Cohen. I like Tariq Cohen, but why is he getting a contract extension before Allen Robinson? That doesn't make any sense. Ryan Pace has made too many poor decisions when it comes to free agents, when it comes to drafting. He's got to get out of there. Type F in the comments section. More on Allen Robinson in a minute, but first, get going with our sports betting partner, Bet Rivers. We've told you guys about these folks all season long. You can make a lot of money over there and get that 100% deposit match when you sign up at chatsports.com/betil. Chatsports.com/betin. You can sign up and deposit from anywhere, but to place a bet, you must be within state lines of either Illinois, chatsports.com/betil, or Indiana, chatsports.com/betin. Now, the Bears are out of the playoffs, but divisional round weekend is almost here, and these are some juicy matchups. These are my picks as of now. I like these bets, so if you guys want some betting advice, feel free to take a gander on some of these. I love the Packers -7 against the Rams at home. I don't know what Jared Goff's thumb situation is. Nice win for the Rams over the Seahawks. I love the Packers at home, especially if that's a bad weather game. I think the Rams could be in trouble there. Ravens at Bills. Over-under set at 50 points. I love the over. I'm smashing the over in this one. You can do that as well. Browns +10 at the Chiefs. I think Kansas City will win. Kansas City is not covered in most of their games this year, though. I think that game will be within 10 points. Browns will keep it close. Kansas City wins, but I like the Browns and the points. And then Bucks +2.5 at the Saints. Tom Brady has never lost to the same team 3 times in a season. I like how Tampa's playing. I think they cover, and quite frankly, I think they win that game outright. So back to Allen Robinson, and by the way, go check out Bet Rivers to bet on any of those games and all other sports as well. How do you not get this guy extended? Look at what he's done the past 2 years in this bad offense. Again, Ryan Pace, see you later. I don't want to hear it anymore. He's got to go. I think Matt Nagy's going to return, but you can't roll back the same regime. Allen Robinson is an ego-free #1 receiver, and the Bears just couldn't figure out how to get him extended. It's ridiculous. And now that the offseason is here, the good news is Robinson wouldn't like it, but you do have that franchise tag at your disposal. But it shouldn't have come down to this, man. This guy should have been extended before week 1 kicked off this year. And at worst, before, the 4th or 5th week of the season. Never happened. It just never happened. So got a new hashtag because you can't extend him anymore. He's officially a free agent. New hashtag, sign AR. I was going to do re-sign AR, but I didn't want to put a hyphen in there. So sign AR. We're going to keep it simple. Get it spammed in the comment section. Also, tweet it on Twitter, and you can tag me in the tweet at HGramNFL. Hashtag sign AR. You can at me on Twitter. Let's get Allen Robinson back in Chicago for the foreseeable future. He is a key cog in this Bears offense moving forward. How about an Eddie Jackson trade? I've seen a lot of you guys bring this up, and look, I can't argue with what you guys have said. Eddie Jackson, he regressed this year. There's just no way around it. It's bizarre. I don't really get what happened, but he just wasn't the same guy, and my goodness, he missed so many tackles this season, and that was on display against the Saints. Bad angles, no interceptions this year. Like, Eddie Jackson just, he was a below-average safety this year. I mean, Tayshaun Gibson signed, what, a month or two before the season? He was clearly better than Jackson this year. And it's not like Gibson was awesome, but he was definitely better than Eddie Jackson. This is the second highest paid safety in the National Football League, and the Bears have limited cap space for 2021 based on the projected cap. I mean, I don't know. If you can put some feelers out and find a decent trade for him, I think this is something you might consider here to try and get out from some of that salary, because Eddie Jackson just was not the same guy. 2018, he was incredible. 2019, still really, really good. And then this year, just not very good. I know the raw stats don't look that different. Sure, he had more tackles and that sort of thing, but no interceptions, was not around the football, and just was not that, he played with an attitude last year. I didn't see that this year. His regression, it's just strange, man. It's weird. I don't get it. Like, 8 picks in the past 2 seasons before this year, 0 this year. I know he had a couple called back early in the year, but the back half of this season, and really for most of the season, I saw a guy who just was lost. I don't know if this is a Pagano problem. I do think Pagano probably is out. We'll do Pagano replacements very, very soon probably here on the channel, so subscribe. But Eddie Jackson has some ownership in this and has to take it. This was a player that severely regressed in 2020. I don't understand it. I'm acknowledging it. Some of you guys have been saying it for a while, and I was like, well, this and that, blah, blah, blah. I'm with you now. This guy fell off a cliff in 2020. I think at the end of the day, you're just going to have to keep him, because who's going to trade for an overpriced safety in today's NFL? Not a lot of teams, so I'll let you guys answer this question. Should they trade or keep him? Type T for trade, K for keep. I think you're just going to have to keep him. What, you're going to get a 5th-round pick for him? I'd rather have Eddie Jackson than that, but wow, that was not very good whatsoever. Good news is we'll cover it all here on Chicago Bears Now this offseason. Subscribe. The link is below, but just hit that big red button, and we'll see you Tuesday for our live show, 4 o'clock Eastern and 3 o'clock Central Time.